Hi folks, Dave, the Honest Audiophile. This is the Fiio FT3, and these are my Honest Audiophile impressions. I want to thank Apos Audio for providing the Fiio FT3 for a review. To greatly appreciate it. Apos Audio, you rock. Alright, so the Fiio FT3, this is going to set you back $300 from your bank account, and it is a 60 millimeter dynamic driver beryllium plated gasket DLC diaphragm semi-open headphone. 350 ohms of impedance, 102 decibels sensitivity, frequency response range of 7 Hz to 40 kHz, and it weighs 391 grams or about 13 ounces. The FT3 comes in a rather large black box. Picture, some branding, and oh, got a high-res sticker. It's gotta sound good. So you get a couple accessories with the FT3. You get this nice carrying case, which is Fiio branded. Hard shell. Got a nice little carrying strap. And then when you open it up, all sorts of room for the headphone to sit in and for your accessories to be toted around in. You also get a cable that is pretty decent. It's rather long, being 10 foot long or about 3 meters long. Connects with 3.5. You do have L and R on the connectors. Metal split. This is all fabric build. It's a little bit on the thick side, but overall it's not a bad built cable. Feels very nice. A little bit long. I do wish that Fiio had included a shorter cable. And then it has interchangeable terminations. So I have the 4.4 connected here, and then they include a 3.5 one as well. You get a 1/4 inch adapter, and then you get a 4.4 to XLR adapter. They include a little carrying tool device thing to carry all those adapters. And you also get a bag. Alright, so the FT3. Very well built, all metal. You have a pleather kind of covering over the metal on top, and then you have a pleather headband suspension strap with some foam on the bottom here. Cups wiggle and rotate. You do have a little bit of movement, which is nice, so it'll pretty much fit any head. Stretches out fairly well. Very interesting design on the cups. It's kind of like one of those throwing stars design. Semi-open. It is a love it or hate it type of design. I don't mind it. Something a little bit different. I think it looks kind of cool. Down on the bottom you have your 3.5s. Pads. Let's talk about the pads. So the pads are very nice. A little bit on the small side when it comes to the ear cup shape. They fit my ears. They might not fit everybody's. My ears barely fit in it. But the nice thing is you get two types. So you have the pleather pad, which is installed. The pleather one is fenestrated on the outside, and then it has suede on the inside. And then you get a full suede set. They're very easy to swap out. You just pull them off. There's pins on the back side, and you just take your other one and line them up, press them on, and boom, you have the suede pad on. Literally within 30 seconds you can have both pads changed. The pads do make a difference sonically. The pleather pad is a little bit more linear, a little bit more analytical leaning, and the suede pad adds in some bass impact and a little bit more body and is a little bit on the warmer side. The Fiio FT3 is extremely comfortable. Pop them on your head, being 13 ounces, they just kind of disappear. The only thing that I notice is that the ears are a little bit small, and they, at times, I have to kind of wiggle them or else they're touching the pad. So other than that, I have no issues with comfort. You do get a little bit of a halo effect. That suspension strap does a good job of dispersing the weight, and it moves very well and will fit any head. I can wear these for hours on end with no problems. Suede pads did make it a little bit warm on the ears after a few hours. I didn't have that issue with the leather pad. The Fiio FT3 is not the easiest headphone to drive, and it really won't work with portable devices. Dongles may be able to get it to volume, but it definitely will not sound very good. DAPs, you might be able to do it if your DAP has some decent power, but my DAPs, the Hibby R5 Gen 2 and the Sony NWA105, really weren't able to drive it very well. It was loud, but it didn't really sound good. So the FT3 got relegated to desktop duty, and that's probably where most people will use it. The Fiio FT3, 350 ohms, 102 decibels of sensitivity. You're going to need some amplification on it. This is going to require some power. The Mytek Liberty DAC 2 amplifier was able to drive the FT3. The HPA did it better. AU and X1S GT, not so much. Even on balance, it really didn't have enough oomph to drive the FT3. JDS Labs Atom Plus, again, not really so much. It did it, but you were pretty high up on the volume knob. Another amplifier that surprised me that it didn't really have the oomph to do it was the Drop THX1 Linear. I was getting up midway upwards to 2 o'clock in the afternoon on the dial, and it wasn't really driving it very well. AUN S9C Pro and AUN S17 Pro did a very good job of driving the FT3, and then the Odyssey Deckard was able to drive it as well. So it's a little bit source picky, and you definitely need a powerful amplifier. How does the Fiio FT3 sound? Well, the FT3 definitely depends on what pads you are using, and for these sound impressions, we're going to be using the pleather pad. So the FT3 is a very linear sound signature. It extends nicely into the bass. You get a little bit of sub-bass presence, but not a whole lot. It's just when the track calls upon it, and then it's very subtle. Mid-bass is a little bit more noticeable, and upper bass also is a little bit more noticeable, but any of those aren't really going to wow you, and it's not going to really be super impactful and a really textured type of bass. It's not going to have a lot of authority and power. It's very much about the quality than it is the quantity. The FT3 has good bass detail and resolution, and it stays very well controlled. As I said, it extends into the sub bass, but it's more about the details and the resolution than it is about the impact and the slam and the punch. And there's not a whole lot of texture. It's just a lot of details, a lot of resolution, and good tone and timbre. And it's not going to be a very fun sounding bass. If you're looking for a more fun sounding bass, you'd want to pop on the suede pads, as that will give it a little bit more body and a little bit more impact. But unfortunately, the details and resolution kind of take a hit, and it becomes a little bit warmer and thicker sounding. The mids. The mids also are very linear, and then as you get into the upper mids, 3K to 5K, there's a bit of a peak, and they can be a little bit aggressive and at times shouty. The mids are like the bass. You don't have a whole lot of body to them, you don't have a lot of fullness to them, but what you do get is a lot of details and a lot of resolution and very good tone and timbre, and it has enough naturalism to it. But at times I did wish that I had more tone, a little bit more body, and a little bit more fullness to bring those notes out a little bit more and flesh it out a little bit more and make it sound a little bit more natural. It is a little bit on the sterile and dry side, and at times it can be a little bit harsh and aggressive and shouty up top. The treble. The lower treble has a peak somewhere around about 9 to 12K. There's a little bit of presence there, and it can be a little bit hot at times. The rest of the treble extends out nicely, and there's good air, and there's nice presence to it, and there's a good bit of sparkle and energy and a little bit of zing. There's nice bite, crispness, and there's an edge to stuff. But just like the mids, it's a little bit on the sterile and dry side, and at times can be a little bit on the harsh side. But the tone and timbre is pretty good, and the detail retrieval and resolution is very good. I do wish that it had a little bit more body and fullness, as it would add in a little bit of naturalism and it would take just that little bit extra edge off. The FT3 reminds me of the person in the office that we all know, that just always has that little bit of an edge to them and a little bit of a coldness to them, and it doesn't matter if they're trying to tell a joke or they're trying to just carry on a conversation. They're always just a little bit edgy and just a little bit bitey, and you just have that kind of cold sterileness about them, and you just wish that they would crack a smile and just grin and bear it, and just have a little fun every now and then. The FT3 soundstage was actually a surprise. Being open back, even though it is a semi-open, I thought it would have a little bit more width to it, but it's not. It's not the largest of headphones. It is a little bit on the small side. And even the bigger, more grand tracks that more open type of tracks, it sounds a little bit smaller than normal. It just doesn't have the ability to really expand and sound large. It makes everything kind of sound a little bit smaller. But it doesn't go into intimate mode. It doesn't go into like this claustrophobic sound, but it just doesn't have that grandness, that ability to kind of open up and sound big. The depth gets hurt a little bit in this way. Also, it's not the deepest of stages. You can read into the stage, but it doesn't have this real deepness. You can kind of see the first couple of rows, but you can't see further in. Imaging, though, is really good. Things track across the stage very well from side to side, and it's very distinct and very direct. If it's on the right side, you definitely know it's on the right side. If it's on the left side, you definitely know it's on the left side. And if it moves, you definitely can track it. The FT3 does a very good job of tracking things across the stage, and also does a good job with layering, but it's not the deepest and it's not the widest. The FT3 does a good job with details and resolution, and you're not going to miss anything in the track, and you're definitely going to be able to track it and place it. It's very distinct, and at times it can force feed the details, and things can be a little bit too intense. But for the most part, details and resolution is good. There is a bits of harshness in the upper mids and lower treble regions, but for the most part, it's a good, detailed and resolving headphone, especially for its price point. Tone and timbre is good as well. I do wish that I had a little bit more body and fullness to things, and it would add in just a little bit more naturalism. It's not the most natural sounding. It is dry and is a little bit on the sterile side. But for the most part, the tone and timbre is accurate. It's just not the most pleasurable. So, the Fiio FT3. How does it compare to a couple other headphones in its price point? So you have the Audio-Technica R70x. Now the R70x weighs less, is a little bit more flimsy built, has these weird ear clips, is a true open back headphone. Pads are about the same size. I find that the R70X is more natural sounding. It has a better amount of note weight, and it has a more fullness to the sound, and it sounds more realistic and accurate with its tone and timbre. It's about the same in detail retrieval and resolution. The soundstage is more accurate with width and with depth, and it does a little bit better with its tracking from side to side, and it's a little bit more pinpoint in its placement. And then you have the Sivga Luan. Now the Sivga Luan has a little bit more in the bass, and it also has a little bit more in the treble, but it's better controlled in the lower treble and upper mids. It's not as shouty, and it doesn't have those moments of hotness. I found that the Luan is a little bit more pleasurable, and it has a little bit more note weight and body. I also find that the Luan is a little bit more comfortable with its larger ear pads and its headband that expands and rotates a little bit better. So, the Fiio FT3. I like this headphone. It's something different. You can get a different experience by using the suede pads with getting a little bit more warmth and a little bit more fun sounding, or you can be more on the analytical side, even though it is a little bit on the cold, sterile side of things. The FT3 is unique in its price point, and it does a good job in everything that it does. It may not be something that you want to listen to all the time, especially with the pleather pads, but if you need to be able to dissect the song and really pick it apart, the FT3 can do that. And if you want to sit back and just kind of chill and relax and listen, you can throw the suede pads on and you can do that as well, even though it still does kind of have that little bit drier, more sterile sound signature. So the Fiio FT3, yeah, I like it. And it's a solid performer, and I do recommend it. It's been Dave, the Honest Audiophile. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video. Speaking of next video, somewhere on screen, subscription links and notification bells. If you haven't already, please check those off. Don't forget to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to the video, and check out all the links down below. There's all kinds of information down there regarding how you can contact the channel, follow the channel, support the channel. All that kind of stuff is listed down below, along with gear recommendations and tier recommendations and gear rankings and music racks and all kinds of things are down below. If you haven't already considered to support the channel, why don't you? There's all kinds of ways that you can do that. You can buy me a coffee, or you can support me on Patreon or YouTube memberships. And with all those memberships through Patreon and YouTube memberships, you can also gain access to my private Discord servers and other kinds of benefits. So if you are considering supporting the channel, it'd be greatly appreciated. I do want to thank all the ones that already support me through Patreon and YouTube memberships. Is much appreciated. Thank you very much. All funds do go back into the channel that are received through the support. And lastly, don't forget to enjoy the music, and that honesty is the best policy.